You can always tell a lot about a person by what shifts in them when you enter the room. People think attraction is loud and obvious, but the truth is, the strongest signs are almost always subtle, changes in energy, attention, and presence. A guy who likes you rarely announces it, but his nervous system does. His body reacts before his mind even forms the thought, and that's why his attention becomes the first silent confession. It's not the stare or the dramatic movie-style moment where everything stops. It's the micro moments, the flicker of awareness, the instant pause, the way he recalibrates himself because you showed up. What most people miss is that attention is a form of investment. We don't give it away freely. You can sit in a room full of people and barely register most of them, but the moment the person you're drawn to walks in, your focus sharpens instantly. There's a psychological pull, almost gravitational, that shifts your inner state. For a guy, this shift is powerful because men are trained to be composed, controlled, unemotional. So when he finds himself instantly more alert in your presence, that alone tells you something real is happening beneath the surface. Maybe he notices things he normally wouldn't. Your expression, your tone, how you're feeling. Not because he's trying to impress you, but because he's genuinely tuned in. It's like his awareness expands to include you. And if you want to know whether a man likes you without him saying a word, this is where to look. Does his energy rise a little when you're there? Does he become more present, more active, more engaged? Attraction wakes people up. It snaps them into a different level of consciousness, even if they try to act normal. And sometimes the attention isn't even about eye contact. In fact, a man who really likes you might avoid direct eye contact because he's afraid of revealing too much. But you'll catch the quick glances, the moments he looks away the second you notice him. That's not disinterest. That's someone who feels more than he's ready to show. It's the quiet intensity of someone who is trying not to give himself away too easily. There's also a philosophical layer to this. We move toward what represents possibility and pull away from what doesn't. So if his behavior consistently shows that he tracks your presence, he's telling you that you matter to him on a level he hasn't put into words yet. Human beings are wired to give their attention to what they desire, fear losing, or feel deeply curious about. And when a guy's attention magnetizes toward you, even in subtle ways, it's a sign that his emotions are already in motion. If he's distracted when you're not around but suddenly more alive when you are, pay attention to that. If he becomes more animated, more talkative, more physically aware of his posture or appearance, those are all indicators. People only make micro adjustments when they care how they're perceived. Attraction creates self-awareness. Self-awareness creates presence. So the next time you're trying to figure out if he likes you, don't look for the big declarations. Look for the shift. Look for that spark of alertness that seems to switch on only when you arrive. That's where the truth is, not in the words he hasn't said yet, but in the attention he can't stop giving. Asterisk asterisk, because the first sign he likes you is simple. You change his energy, and energy doesn't lie. Asterisk asterisk, one of the most revealing signs that a guy likes you, without him ever having to say a word, is the way he suddenly becomes more protective of the space around you. And I don't mean protectiveness in the stereotypical sense of stepping in front of danger or acting like some sort of hero. I'm talking about the subtle, psychological protectiveness that shows up long before he's even conscious of it. It's the instinctive way he positions himself near you, the way he becomes more attuned to how comfortable you are, the way he shifts his behavior to make sure you feel safe, respected, and included. What's fascinating is that real protectiveness isn't loud, it isn't possessive, it isn't a performance. It's often so understated that you only notice it in hindsight. A man who feels a pull toward you doesn't just watch you, he orients himself around you. His body language changes without him even meaning to. He'll stand closer than he stands with others, subtly leaning in when you talk, angling his body toward you even in a group setting. These micro gestures come from a deep biological wiring. We gravitate physically toward what attracts us emotionally, and this subtle protectiveness also shows up in how he behaves socially. If someone interrupts you while you're speaking, he'll redirect the spotlight back to you. If a moment feels overwhelming, he'll naturally step in to ease the tension. If you're in a group and you look lost or disconnected, he'll adjust his communication to pull you back into the conversation. He's not doing this because he consciously decided to play the gentleman. He's doing it because he feels responsible for your experience in that moment. Attraction creates a sense of responsibility, quiet, instinctive, and genuine. There's also an emotional protectiveness that reveals itself in small ways. He notices your reactions more closely. He becomes sensitive to your discomfort. If a topic feels off or you seem uneasy, he adjusts. Not because he's afraid of saying the wrong thing, but because he wants to be someone you can exhale around. Men don't show emotional intelligence consistently unless they're invested. When a guy cares, he becomes more observant, more intentional, more aware of how his energy affects you. If you pay attention, you'll see it in the smallest interactions. The way he slows his pace to match yours, the way he makes room for you in a conversation, the way he instinctively shifts closer when something unexpected happens. These tiny signals are part of a larger truth. Human beings protect what they value, even subconsciously, and the philosophical side of this is meaningful. Protectiveness is a form of presence. It means he's not just aware of himself, he's aware of you. He's attuned, engaged, alert, and we don't become attuned to people who don't matter to us. To care is to pay attention. To pay attention is to protect. So if you ever wonder whether a guy likes you without him saying it, look at how he responds to your comfort. Look at the way he gently adjusts his world to make space for yours. Because a man's protectiveness isn't about control, it's about emotional investment. Asterisk, and when a man quietly protects your peace, he's telling you everything his words haven't yet found the courage to say. Asterisk, one of the clearest signs a guy likes you without ever saying it is how he becomes unusually attentive to the details most people overlook. It's the kind of attention that doesn't feel forced or strategic. It's instinctive. He starts remembering the things you say in passing, the preferences you barely emphasize, the tiny shifts in your tone or mood that others might completely miss. And what's interesting is that this level of attentiveness doesn't come from effort. It comes from interest. Genuine attraction sharpens a person's awareness. You'll notice he picks up on the micro things, like when you say you prefer your coffee a certain way, and next time he surprises you by handing you exactly that. Or when you casually mention a stressful week, and a few days later he checks in, not because you reminded him, but because it stayed with him. People remember what affects them, and when someone's presence impacts his emotional landscape, he naturally pays more attention. This kind of attention is deeper than listening. It's presence. It's him tuning into you on a level he doesn't extend to everyone else. You'll see it in the way he notices what makes you laugh, what makes you nervous, what lights you up. He's not analyzing you, he's absorbing you, and that absorption is one of the purest indicators of emotional attraction. But there's another layer to this. When a man likes you, he becomes more careful with his words, sometimes even more nervous. He starts choosing his responses more intentionally because he wants to get it right. He wants to show up in a way that matters to you, not to impress you with grand gestures, but to make you feel seen. That desire to get it right comes from the fear of losing emotional proximity to you. Attraction makes us aware of the risk, even before we admit the desire. And what's beautiful is that his attentiveness extends to your emotional cues. He notices when you withdraw slightly, when your eyes drop for a second, when something you heard didn't sit well with you. He might not always know how to respond, but he notices. That awareness alone speaks volumes because men rarely step into emotional observation unless they care. It's not something they're naturally conditioned to do unless someone has shifted their emotional center of gravity. It shows up in conversations too. He asks more questions, not the routine kind, the kind that reveal he's genuinely curious about who you are beneath the surface. Men don't invest their energy like that unless something about you has captured their attention in a way they can't shake off. And when a guy is drawn to you, he doesn't just hear your words, he studies their meaning. He listens for what they reveal. He pays attention not only to what you say, but to what you don't. When someone listens to understand, and not just respond, that's emotional signaling, that's interest. That's attraction turning into intention. So if you want to know whether a man likes you without him ever admitting it, pay attention to what he pays attention to. His focus will tell you everything. Asterisk asterisk, because in the end, attraction isn't spoken. It's shown in the quiet moments where his attention chooses you even before he does. Asterisk asterisk, another sign that a guy likes you, without ever verbalizing it, is the way he subtly shifts his physical presence whenever you're around. It's not always dramatic. It's not always obvious. But attraction has a way of rearranging a man's body language long before it rearranges his words. And if you look closely, you'll see the truth of his feelings expressed in movements he doesn't even realize he's making. When he likes you, his posture changes, not to look perfect, but to look engaged. He leans slightly closer when you talk, even if the room isn't loud. His shoulders turn toward you, creating a kind of invisible alignment. His feet angle in your direction, and he might not be consciously doing any of it. But that's the point. The body reacts before the mind approves. It's biology revealing what the ego tries to keep subtle. You'll notice he often mirrors you without thinking. You cross your arms, he adjusts his. You lean against something, and suddenly he's doing the same. Mirroring happens when someone's nervous system is attuned to another person. It's the body's way of saying, I'm connected to you, even if he hasn't built the courage or context to say anything out loud. And then there's proximity. A man who likes you looks for reasons to be physically closer, not in an invasive way, but in those small, respectful shifts that reduce distance. He stands a little nearer than he needs to. He chooses a seat that keeps him within your orbit. He finds ways to remain close enough to feel your presence without crossing boundaries that would make you uncomfortable. You feel him hovering just slightly, not clingy, but attentive. That's intentional, even if he doesn't admit it. Another subtle indicator is how he reacts when you move away. If he feels even a small dip in connection, he unconsciously tries to reestablish it. Maybe he steps closer. Maybe he leans in again. Maybe he initiates another topic just so you don't walk off. That little follow behavior reveals more than he realizes. It's not possessiveness. It's interest-seeking continuity. Pay attention also to his hands. Often, men give themselves away with what they do when they don't know what to do. He may fidget slightly, smooth out his clothes, or adjust something near him just to channel the excess energy your presence creates. Attraction doesn't just affect emotions. It creates a physical tension he instinctively manages. Even his eyes tell a story. There's that moment when he looks at you a fraction longer than what's polite. He breaks eye contact, then returns to it, almost checking to see if you noticed or reciprocated. That's not casual observation. That's emotional investment trying to stay subtle. The beauty of body language is that it cannot lie. He can control his words, he can control his actions, but he cannot fully control the physiological shifts that happen in the presence of someone he's drawn to. So when you're trying to understand whether a man likes you without him saying a word, look at the way his body behaves around you, because the truth often shows up first in the posture, the glance, the inch-by-inch closeness. Asterisk asterisk, when words stay silent, the body becomes the confession. Asterisk asterisk, one of the most revealing signs that a guy likes you without ever putting it into words is how he becomes protective of your emotional space. And I don't mean protective in the dramatic movie-style sense. I mean the subtle, thoughtful ways he tries to make sure you're okay, mentally, emotionally, even energetically. When a man is drawn to you, he becomes attuned not just to how you look, but to how you feel. It's a quieter kind of protection, one rooted not in control, but in care. You'll notice it when he starts paying attention to how things affect you. If you seem stressed, he tries, sometimes awkwardly, to lighten the load. He listens more intently, not out of politeness but out of concern. If you're uncomfortable in a social moment, he subtly adjusts his behavior to ease the tension, maybe by staying close, steering the conversation, or giving you a reassuring look that says, "You're not alone here." That awareness doesn't come from duty, it comes from desire, and what's fascinating is that men rarely talk about this instinct. They often don't realize they're doing it. They just feel compelled to. Because when someone matters to you, you naturally want to create a sense of safety around them, not by being dominant or overbearing, but by being present, responsive, and emotionally reliable. You'll also see his protective nature in the way he responds when someone else treats you poorly. He becomes more alert, more observant. He might not jump in like a hero in an action movie, but his energy shifts. He positions himself closer. He pays attention to your reaction. He subtly steps into a role of support without being asked. When a guy isn't emotionally invested, he might feel sympathy, but he doesn't feel responsibility. When he likes you, he feels both. Another layer of this protection is how he adjusts his tone with you. With others, he might be sarcastic, blunt, or detached. But with you, he becomes softer, more careful with his words. He doesn't want to hurt you even by accident, so he pauses before speaking. He chooses a gentler phrasing. He listens longer. These shifts may be small, but they're deeply meaningful because they show that he is emotionally invested enough to be intentional. He also becomes protective of your time and energy. If you're overwhelmed, he encourages you to rest. If someone is draining you, he subtly suggests boundaries. If you're carrying too much, he offers help without making you feel incapable. It's not about rescuing you. It's about respecting and supporting the journey you're already on. And one of the clearest signs is this: he becomes protective of the connection itself. He doesn't want unnecessary conflict. He avoids doing things that might push you away. He tries to understand rather than react. Men don't protect connections they don't value. If he's trying to preserve the space between you, it's because that space means something to him. Attraction makes a man want to be a source of steadiness, not chaos. It pushes him to show up in ways he rarely articulates, but can't help demonstrating. Asterisk asterisk, because the deepest form of interest isn't loud. It's the quiet intention to keep you safe, understood, and emotionally seen. Asterisk asterisk, another sign that a guy likes you, one he'll never say out loud, is how his emotional patterns subtly shift when someone else captures your attention. And this isn't about toxic jealousy or possessiveness. It's about the natural human reaction we all have when we care about someone and suddenly feel that our place in their world might not be as secure as we hoped. When a man likes you, his emotions become slightly more heightened around the idea of competition, not because he wants to control you, but because he values the connection and doesn't want to lose it before it fully forms. You'll notice it in the small changes first. Maybe he gets quieter for a moment when you mention another guy, especially one who complimented you or showed interest. Maybe he leans in a little more during the conversation, asking subtle follow-up questions, not to interrogate you, but to understand where he stands. His tone becomes more intentional, his presence more grounded, as if he wants to re-establish a sense of closeness without making it obvious. There's a protective instinct here mixed with vulnerability. When a man genuinely likes you, he becomes aware of the possibility that someone else might also see your value. And even if he tries to stay composed, you can feel that tiny ripple of tension. That's not insecurity, it's emotional investment. If he didn't care, he wouldn't react at all. His calmness wouldn't shift, his energy wouldn't change. But because he does care, competition makes him more alert, more attentive, more tuned into you. Sometimes his behavior becomes subtly more purposeful after these moments. He might initiate more conversation, try harder to make you laugh, or go out of his way to show support. It's not about proving himself superior to anyone else. It's about showing you, through action, that he wants to be part of your life. He's not trying to win you like a prize. He's trying to earn you through consistency, presence, and genuine connection. And notice how he handles your interactions with other men in real time. He won't be confrontational or dramatic. Instead, he becomes more observant. He watches to see if the other person makes you comfortable or uncomfortable. He pays attention to whether the dynamic feels mutual or one-sided, and above all, he stays respectful, because real attraction doesn't push boundaries. It honors them while still showing interest. There's also the emotional honesty that leaks out in these moments. He may not express jealousy, but you'll sense a subtle shift in his tone or the weight of his words. His compliments become a little more sincere, his questions a little more personal, his presence a little more intentional. What he's really saying, without actually saying it, is, I care about this connection, and I hope you see something in me worth choosing. The beautiful thing is that you don't have to guess his intentions if you know how to read the emotional truth behind those quiet reactions. It's not the intensity that matters, it's the sincerity. You're not looking for a man who gets jealous loudly. You're looking for a man who values you deeply enough that the idea of losing you brings out his most genuine effort. Asterisk asterisk, because real interest doesn't shout. It shows up in the subtle ways he tries to stay close when he feels he might lose his chance. Asterisk asterisk.